having our first conversation this morning. And as we mentioned, we'll be touching on various topics with Honorable Francis Fonseca, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade, Education, Culture, Science, and Technology.
You sure you're done?
I'm sure. But good morning, Honorable Francis Fonseca. You have obviously a full plate, but we're happy to have you here with us, taking some time out of your obviously busy schedule.
No, it's always a pleasure to join you on the set of Open Your Eyes. So thank you very much. Good morning to both of you and to your TV viewers across the country. It's great to be with you this morning.
All right.
Minister, if we could just start by asking you, how has it been juggling both ministries and all the responsibilities that come with that?
Yeah, for me, it's been an exciting journey so far, an exciting opportunity. Obviously, you know, a challenging one. But I am absolutely, blessed to be surrounded by very, very good, competent people. So I have excellent support teams at both ministries. As you said, these are, ministries with tremendous responsibilities. So it's a lot of work, but, my role is a leadership role, and guiding and policy making and working along with the teams that we have there. Obviously at education, we've had a lot of time working together over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
So we have a very solid foundation there. And I have an excellent team, CEO, Chief Education Officer, Deputy Chief. So, I would not have taken on this additional challenge if I was not absolutely comfortable with the strong foundation we had built at the Ministry of Education. And then, of course, going over to Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Again, there we have experienced people. We have an experienced CEO, Ambassador Mai, and very good foreign service officers, a very good Director General of Trade and his support team. So that has made it a very exciting, interesting journey. Obviously, it's a 24/7 job.
Yes.
Very, very busy. But I've enjoyed the challenge so far.
Absolutely. You are obviously more than competent to take on each and every one of these responsibilities that are given to you. Minister, we have about a little bit over 30 minutes, so let's use this opportunity to touch on as much as possible. Let's begin with Foreign Affairs. This is one of your newly appointed responsibilities, and we know that there's always something taking place as it relates to Foreign Affairs. I'd say the most recent one has been where Belize has been trying to provide support to Haiti.
Right.
Can you give us some update on that?
Yeah, I mean, Haiti is obviously an absolute crisis. I say to people that Haiti is, a humanitarian crisis, but it's also an economic crisis, a political crisis, and a security crisis. Really, there are 4 limbs to the crisis that we're facing as a region in Haiti. But I'm very proud of the fact that Belize, through the efforts of Prime Minister Briceño, has played a very integral role in developing a plan for moving Haiti forward to some semblance of peace and stability. It's not going to be easy. Everyone who knows and understands the history of Haiti knows that this is very, very challenging. But Belize, through CARICOM, has played a critical role, and CARICOM has really taken the lead on this issue. The reality on the ground is that Haiti is now overrun by gangs.
Yes.
Gangs effectively control the entire country. Random killings, indiscriminate killings, looting, a lot of violence against women and children. So it's an absolutely desperate situation. But what has happened is that CARICOM, through its efforts, has managed to engage with all of the relevant stakeholders, if you like, those that are left on the ground in Haiti, and managed to put in place what we call a presidential council. That presidential council, the objective of that council is really to oversee, certainly in the short term, oversee the management of the affairs of Haiti. They have a number of responsibilities, but the main two responsibilities that that council has is one, appointing an interim prime minister of Haiti, and two, establishing some sort of independent electoral council that will be responsible for managing future elections in Haiti. And they have a timeline of about 18 months, because what the international community, I should make that point as well, that CARICOM is of course supported by the international community, by countries like the United States of America, UK, France. So what we would like to see is that over the next 18 months, that Haiti holds peaceful democratic elections and hopefully return to a path of democracy and some peace and stability. So that's where we are with Haiti. Just to add very quickly that there's also, of course, this objective of sending in a multinational security service team into Haiti to provide that level of security and stability. Belize has already committed to being a part of that team. Our contingent, we have about 50 troops, including BDF and Coast Guard. They are receiving training. They've received training from Canada. They're now in Jamaica receiving training. They will come back to Belize. And then, you know, if all the circumstances are right, then they will participate in that MSS mission. But we're not there yet. There are many outstanding issues. Who will finance the mission? You know, what's the exit strategy?
Yes.
So many factors, because of course we are not going to send our troops into any situation where, you know, they're open to harm or put in any position where they may be, you know, have to be fighting with Haitian nationals and that sort of thing.
I'm glad that you provided that clarification, Minister, because I believe it was just yesterday I saw on the news that the main hospital in Haiti has seemingly collapsed, where individuals are not able to acquire basic needs like health care.
Right.
And so that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask. Is this a concern for Belize, whether we would be confident enough to send our contingent to Haiti, knowing that they could potentially be at risk themselves?
Oh, absolutely. It's an absolute concern. I know we meet, you know, regularly with the BDF and the Coast Guard commanders, and they have a very specific checklist. I think it's a 10-point checklist, and they are requiring that all of those factors be met. Conditions be met before the cabinet gives its approval for these for our contingent to go into Haiti. You're right. I mean, kids have been out of school in Haiti for over a year.
Yes.
Over a year, and this is on the back of COVID, where schools were closed before. So we're really looking at a absolute crisis, a generational loss for these families and communities. So Belize is absolutely committed to doing everything we can to support our brothers and sisters in Haiti. We're working through CARICOM. We believe that represents the best opportunity to achieve some level of peace and stability in Haiti.
On the other hand, how open are the people of Haiti to these interventions by way of a transitional council as well as the security team? There seems to be the suggestion that this is still foreign or international meddling and intervention.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can understand the Haitian people. They've had a long history of interventions and meddling in their country, and none of it has really resulted in any positive benefits for the masses, for the people. So they're always very cynical and skeptical about these missions and interventions. But our sense is that, you know, based on the depth of this crisis that we're faced, that everybody understands that there needs to be some movement. So it's hard to measure exactly what you're asking for because, as I said, Haiti is overrun by gangs. You know, and obviously it's not in the interest of some of these gang leaders to have anybody come into Haiti. They want to continue to run the country and do as they wish. So there's a level of that, but we feel very confident that the Presidential Council has the general support of the key stakeholders in Haiti. You know, a lot of work went into that. The CARICOM heads of government, including the Prime Minister of Belize, had appointed what they call an eminent persons group. This was former prime ministers of the Caribbean, headed by the former Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Kenny Anthony. And they spent over a year on the ground engaging with stakeholders, churches, NGOs, youth groups, as much as they could. And so they were the ones who came up with these very specific recommendations for how we move forward. And those were adopted by the heads of government, and that's what we're moving forward with.
What honor is there in it for these members of the security forces of Belize that have decided to embark on this journey to Haiti?
Yeah, I've been very proud of our troops, both the Coast Guard and the BDF. They were really the ones who were holding them back. Yeah. They're absolutely gung-ho on going. We're ready to go. We're ready to go every time we meet. We're ready to go, Minister. We have to say, listen, I know you're ready. You're trained for this. You're prepared. But we want to make sure that conditions are right and that we're not sending you on any suicide mission. That's very important. You have families. You represent our country. So they are absolutely prepared and ready. They say, you know, we're soldiers. This is what we do. But you know, they feel very proud about the fact that they are helping their fellow Caribbean brothers and sisters. So there's a strong sense of pride. Yeah. So I'm very proud of them.
Minister, if we could switch topics just for a bit, staying on foreign affairs. I know that recently you were meeting with diplomats, Belizean diplomats from across the world, right? They were all here in Belize. What were some of the salient points coming out of those conversations with them from that visit?
Yeah, it's the annual, what they call the annual heads of mission encounter, which, you know, every year we bring in all of the Belize's ambassadors from around the globe to come home for really a briefing on what's happening in terms of our priorities, our policies, and have a very robust discussion with them about the work that we're doing as a government. But also, of course, hearing from them about the issues that they are faced with in their respective countries. So we had, you know, 3 days, very engaging discussions and interaction. You know, we had very good presentations from different ministries, of course. You know, we heard from the BTB, tourism, because all of our ambassadors have to be on the front line, of course. All of them are tourism ambassadors for Belize. We also, of course, heard from agriculture. So we had a good briefing on agriculture because, again, foreign trade is absolutely critical to Belize's development. So they all have to be engaged in the work of finding new markets for Belizean products and investments in Belize. That has to be a critical priority for them as ambassadors of Belize. And then, of course, I could not, of course, leave out the discussions about education and culture. So we brought in our teams to share with them the work that we're doing in education and culture. And as I said to them, you know, they have to be cultural ambassadors as well for Belize. You know, we have this beautiful, rich, diverse culture that really is, you know, is what Belize is all about. And so they have to be able to understand and appreciate and tell that story of Belize's beautiful, diverse culture. So I thought that was a very important engagement for them. Of course, we heard from the Ministry of Finance and the Prime Minister as well. He talked to them about his vision for the future of Belize. And we brought in Minister Chris Coy to talk about economic development and investment. And we also took them out into the field. You know, we didn't just sit in the room there in Belmopan. We took them to the Sarstoon Forward Operating Base to see firsthand they talk about this all the time, and they have to be advocates for Belize's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So we wanted them to see firsthand for themselves what they're talking about, what they're defending as ambassadors of Belize. Yeah. And then on the second day, we took them to see the productive sector. We took them to the Spanish Lookout to see the farms there and the exports that we're producing, red kidney beans, black eye beans, rice, corn. To see firsthand, we went to Quality Poultry, we went to Western Dairies to see the production taking place there. These are critical to Belize's economic development and growth. And then we also, very importantly, one of our final stops on the road was a stop at the Adjacency Zone Office, the OAS Adjacency Zone Office at the western border, where we got a full briefing from the OAS team there. Of course, as you all know, they play a very critical role in terms of mediation between Belize and Guatemala in that adjacency zone area. So that was very important, and we got an opportunity as well to visit the Gracias a Dios border marker. So all in all, it was a
lot happened. With all that is expected of these foreign diplomats, Belizean diplomats, how resourced are they? We've received complaints. I say complaints. I don't think they're complaining about how they're living, but concerns that some of these embassies or some of these works are woefully under-resourced, and that there isn't enough to get enough done, all of their responsibilities.
Yeah, I think, I've said this publicly before. I mean, small developing countries like Belize, we always have to find creative ways of getting the job done with less resources, because that's just the reality of our economies and where we are. Yes, of course, all of these missions could use more staffing. That would be ideal. Mm-hmm. But the reality is we just do not have the resources to give them everything they want. So we have to find creative ways of making sure that they are effectively and efficiently carrying out their mandates with the resources they have. But I can tell you, based on our discussions, we also had some briefings on administration and finance as well, so that they understand better the budget of the ministry. And so I think coming out of those discussions, we agreed that, we would look at certain priority areas and concerns that they have and see how we can discuss those with the Ministry of Finance to get perhaps additional resources to support them. Because obviously, as I keep saying, they are on the front line of the work to advance Belize's, national development. So it's important, but, I think we're doing very well with what we have. We're doing very well with what we have, and nobody complained to me over the past 3 days. Maybe they complained
Minister,
to others.
Do you have a status on the finalizing of visa-free entry into Europe?
Yeah, we discussed that issue over the past 3 days. It's a very bureaucratic process. Let's be very clear. What's important for the Belizean people to understand is that Belize, we have done everything required of us to meet the conditions for the waiver of the Schengen visa. We've upgraded our passport. We spent, as a country, I think, over close to $30 million upgrading, making sure we have these e-passports with all the required biometrics and everything in them. We even, there was some concern about loopholes with the long abolished economic citizenship program. It was abolished many decades ago, but there were concerns that, maybe there are loopholes. We went to the National Assembly and closed those loopholes. So Belize has done everything. We've lobbied. My predecessor, Minister Courtney, spent a lot of time and effort lobbying for this to be achieved. Our ambassador in Brussels, Dr. Avila, has this as a priority on her agenda. So she briefed us on it. We've done everything, and we are now we're really waiting for them to make a decision. It's a difficult time now because they're having elections in the European Parliament, and ultimately they will decide. And also, there have been a number of scandals with these visas and waivers, and so it's complicated, but we are continuing to press very hard on this issue.
On the point of travel, it was just about a week or a couple weeks ago, Minister, that we were presented with the final updates from the Statistical Institute of Belize as it relates to the census. And we saw that Belize is growing quite slowly. But one of the conversations that we've been having is the fact that Belizeans may be migrating. Yeah. What were your thoughts on that?
No, I think that's a fact. I think, the figures, we got a presentation in Cabinet from SIB as well. And you're absolutely right. We're kind of stagnated right now. We've kind of leveled off, which is interesting. But apparently, according to SIB, it's a trend in many countries across the world and in the Caribbean. The reality is that families are having less children. People are getting married later. Some are not some are not getting married at all. So there are many factors. But as you rightly said, their migration is also a factor. But they pointed out that it's really not a significant factor in Belize yet. I think maybe, remember the census was up to 2022. But I can tell you from my own experience on the ground, even in a community that I represent in Freetown, Belama, for example, where we have migrants in Belama Phase 4 and 5. I have seen where families have just picked up and left. So there is migration taking place, as you all know, across the region, South America, Latin America, Central America. People are moving, going to the United States. So there's some level of that reflected in the figures.
Are there thoughts on the potential of a migration policy to mitigate Belizeans leaving for economic opportunities versus staying here in Belize and building what we have here?
Yeah, it's of course, yeah. We have a immigration policy and migration policy, and we have laws in place. But it's always going to be challenging. No matter what we do in Belize, it will always appear to people that the grass is greener on the other side in the United States. We'll never be able to compete with, being able to get $15 US an hour. Or
minimum wage.
Minimum, that's the minimum now, correct? And up. So, I think all of us, it's a discussion I can tell you we've had in CARICOM. Because, of course, these countries, developed countries, are poaching or nurses or teachers. I met at a meeting the Minister of Education for Jamaica, and she was telling me in one year, 500 of her best teachers were poached because they just can't compete. If you're offering these people double their salary at a minimum, double, in some cases it's triple and quadruple, plus residency and all these things for the entire family, they will leave.
That's an interesting way to describe it, poaching.
Yeah, it is. It's really, they are sitting on a perch and looking and say, where are the best, where are the best people, and take them. So it's very challenging for developing countries.
Minister, can we get an update on the Belize-Guatemala border dispute that is currently before the ICJ? Where are we with that?
Yeah, sure. Of course, this remains obviously a very top priority for us. Belize's national sovereignty or territorial integrity must be, job number one for us at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Where we are with that process is that, of course, Belize is committed to that process. Both Belize and Guatemala have submitted all of their written submissions to the court. we've met the timelines. And where we are now is that we are awaiting the court, the ICJ, to set a date for the oral hearings of the court, the oral hearings. We expect that that will likely be done sometime later this year. It could roll over into next year. So we're looking at really a two-year kind of period for this entire matter to evolve. But Belize, of course, we feel very confident about our case. We believe that at the end of the day, our long-held position in Belize will be vindicated. Our sovereignty over our territory or islands or marine spaces will be upheld. So that's where we are with that. We also have before the ICJ a case with Honduras over the Zapadilla Keys. So that's a claim initiated by Belize. We felt it was opportune for us to resolve all of these outstanding issues since we are already before the court. Again, that has the same kind of timeline over the next 2 years.
Yeah. Could 2026 be a realistic expectation for a determination?
Yeah, I believe, late 2025, 2026. At the earliest, it would be late 2025, I believe. Yeah. And it could easily roll over into 2026.
One of our sister countries are also experiencing something very similar, and that is Guyana versus Venezuela, as it relates to the territorial dispute over the Essequibo region. What has been your observation of this dispute headed to the ICJ, knowing that Guyana has just recently been celebrating the findings of oil, but now having to fight over land?
I mean, it's, and that the resources, of course, are, and that's always the case with these matters. It's really about the resources. The Essequibo region is supposedly very rich in even the oil reserves. So at its core, these things are essentially about resources and money. Belize, again, CARICOM has taken a very strong position in support of Guyana, our sister CARICOM nation. And that's where Belize stands. Venezuela obviously has been a good friend to Belize for many decades. But we believe that Venezuela is acting improperly in this case. And we stand very firmly with Guyana and their right to their territorial sovereignty over the Essequibo region. So, we hope we've been involved in discussions between the two parties. I was at a meeting in St. Vincent probably a month ago or so, where we had both the president of Guyana and President Maduro of Venezuela in the room.
Interesting.
And the veteran leaders in the room, led by the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, Ralph Gonzalez, somehow got them to shake hands. And but since then we've seen a lot of saber rattling and a lot of strong rhetoric from Venezuela. We find that to be unfortunate. Belize condemns that. We believe that this region, as we agreed to in St. Vincent, Latin America, the Caribbean, Central America, this must remain a zone of peace. And both leaders pledged to that in St. Vincent. So we're holding them to that. And we certainly hope that it does not escalate beyond the harsh rhetoric that we've seen.
Does our strong stance against Venezuela's actions affect our relationships with them in any way? I know they've been very friendly to Belize.
I mean, we don't think so. I mean, we've had very frank discussions. I've spoken to the ambassador. And I've made it very clear, this is our position. Belize we have to always have a very principled position on these issues of national sovereignty and territorial integrity. I mean, we have this claim hanging over our heads. We have to have that principled position. So I think our friends in Venezuela understand that, they appreciate that, and they recognize Belize's principled position. So I don't think it will affect our relationship in any way. We have been good friends for a long time, and I expect that we will continue to be good friends.
Minister, if we could switch over topics, because we spend a lot of time on foreign affairs, more time than I thought we would. There's a lot to discuss in foreign affairs, right?
Yes.
But just switching over a bit to the Ministry of Education, let's talk a bit about teachers and teachers' development. Where are we in terms of the necessary trainings available for our teachers at this time? There seems to be a discussion about the correlation between trained teachers and the quality of education that we're receiving in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that correlation. You know, the quality of your teachers is absolutely directly linked to the quality of education. Now, that's not the only factor, of course. There are many other contributing factors to the quality of education. But our teachers are on the front line, and all of us who have gone through the education system know. We know the difference between a good teacher and a not so good teacher. We talk about it all the time. I remember this, I remember Miss Bennett or whatever, and the foundation that she provided. So we remember these things. So there's no question about that link. The good news is that I think, you know, as a country, as you know, and this applies to across both governments, we have invested a lot in teacher education, teacher training. So over the past 20 years or so, we've seen a lot of movement. Now, people will argue, well, you know, that has not necessarily translated into an improved quality of education. So I think, you know, there's still a lot of work to do, but of course our teachers have been equipping themselves with the skills and knowledge they need to perform better in the classroom. There have been a lot more opportunities for training. And, you know, one of the key things that we have done over the past 3 years is, you know, reevaluate the whole the curriculum, and retrain our teachers. We've adopted this competency-based approach to learning, teaching and learning. That has required a shift in how we train our teachers, and so that has been a challenging experience, but we think it's an important exercise. You know, and again, we invest a lot, I can tell you, at the Ministry of Education every year in terms of support to teachers, and scholarships and financial support and assistance to make sure that they are getting, you know, properly prepared to work in the classroom. So it's an important issue, but I think collectively we have a plan, and we work very carefully. We work very closely with the Belize National Teachers Union, where there are other stakeholders, the managing authorities. You know, so a lot of work is going on. You know, there are lots of details that we don't have time to get into. But for example, you know, we have the TLI, the Teacher Learning Institute, that we established in 2.5 years ago. Again, that has been an important tool in updating teachers on you know, lesson plans, providing them with up-to-date information on new issues and new areas of learning and teaching. You know, so we've had all our teachers, basically, you know, 90% of our teachers are registered on the TLI, so we have direct contact with them. So there's a lot of training. We have the 501 Academy. A lot of work is going on at the Ministry of Education.
You know, Minister, I wanted to say, in the same breath of ensuring that we have quality teachers, and of course knowing that there's a linkage to quality teachers and the quality of education, I think it's also worthy of mentioning the good that's already being done. And I wanted to commend the ministry for the recent campaign that was pushed out, being the MORE campaign, where we're able to see educational institutions doing more, but maybe we just did not know. And I think that happens often. Oftentimes there are extraordinary acts taking place in these institutions, but they simply don't share it. Let's talk about why it was important for your ministry to incorporate this campaign.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You nailed it. we wanted to, and I felt very strongly about it. I initiated this campaign. I wanted to provide a platform for all of us to send a very clear message to our people that all of us have a responsibility to do more and be more for Belize. And we said, listen, how can we start in our corner at the Ministry of Education? And that's exactly, how this idea developed and evolved. How can we use our schools? How can we, through our schools, demonstrate to the wider Belizean public that these young people, their teachers, are actively engaged in the work of national development. They love Belize. They want to see a better Belize for them and their families and their communities. So what better place to showcase that than in your classrooms and in at your schools? So we're doing our part. It's an absolutely fantastic project. It's just getting off the ground, but we're very, very pleased with the results so far, and we're going to continue to work and engage to expand it.
I may not be as commending as Sabrina, and perhaps I'm the antagonist here, but why is it that with all these trainings and all these initiatives for teachers, do you believe that there's still a group, particularly out of the Belize National Teachers Union, that are saying we are still woefully undersourced? There's still a lot of work left to be done infrastructure-wise as well, and that we are still taking monies out of our very own pockets to ensure that these students receive the quality education that we're advocating.
No, I'm very sensitive to that. I don't dismiss that at all. Again, we live in a developing country, so there's always going to be a challenge for resources. How do we allocate the resources we have in an effective, efficient way? The Ministry of Education has, people look at the budget and say, biggest budget, with a buck $300 million. But I will quickly add, over almost 85% of that is for teachers' salaries. I think it's 82% or something like that for teachers' salaries, right off the top. So what you're left with is what? The 18%, 20% if you want to round it off, for programs and other initiatives and other things. So that's the reality. So I don't dismiss at all those concerns. They are legitimate, and we continue to work with our partners. Next week I have a meeting with the new president and her team, the BNTU, next week, Wednesday, where we will sit down and discuss these issues and talk about how we can work together. People think that we have to be at odds, that there's this adversarial relationship with BNTU and ministry. That does not have to be the case. I think we have a shared objective, a shared commitment to improving the quality of education, to making sure that education works for our teachers, our students, our communities, for Belize ultimately. So yes, we have to address those issues and find more effective ways of using the resources we have. But let's not fool ourselves. The resources, even though we're spending that amount of money, it's limited.
Now, Minister, we could spend a lot more time on this topic, but we won't. It's a big day for you and your ministry. You guys will launch the Museum of Belizean Arts today.
MOBA. Yeah.
MOBA. All right, MOBA. It's a big deal, huge step in this orange economy sector. Let's talk a bit about that.
We're very excited. I'm very excited about MOBA. It's something we've been talking about for more than a year, and I'm very glad that I've had Yasser Musa and Gilvano Swayze and our entire team really at Niche. The board of directors have really taken it on, but Yasser and Gilvano have been really working on it on a day-to-day basis to get it going. So we're very proud of the fact that today at 10 o'clock we'll be launching that at the government house. Imagine that the whole government house, the whole governor used to live in that house. and used to have up all these colonial pictures, and you know, and now it's becoming a museum of Belizean art, our artists. So we're very, very proud of that. Very proud of that fact, and it will be an absolutely positive addition to our cultural product, but also to our tourism product as well. So we'll have, you know, an opportunity where you know, tourists will be able to visit the museum at some point and see the great work of our Belizean artists, visual artists. Tremendous, and it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
The next thing we'll do is we'll move to the music. We want a museum of Belizean musicians.
Nice.
So we're going to work on that next. We already have a Belize music project that we're working on, which is tracking 100 years of music in Belize. I can tell you, I went to Benke, to Ivan Duran's studio, Stone Tree Records in Benke, and he played for me this music from 100 years ago. It was the wood, the loggers, the loggers, and really slaves chanting, and somebody recorded it. I think it was some BBC person that was in Belize at the time, recorded it, and so that's the oldest piece of music we have of this chant, this logwood chant. Man, if you listen to that thing on, you know, at a studio, it's tremendous, tremendous, the chant. Yeah. So we want to retrace the whole 100 years, all the great musicians we've had in Belize, and add that to the product along with the Museum of Belizean Art. So it's a great day for culture, great day for education, great day for Belize.
Yes.
Back in my teenage years, I visited Stone Tree Records. I had an interest in music, and I visited early in my teenage years. I visited to seek an internship there. I was denied the internship, perhaps for good reason, because now look at what I'm doing. But Minister, I can't have you leave without asking you one last question, more on a controversial matter, but there are suggestions that you played somewhat of an influential role in the decision of who would take up the city administrator's position in Belize City. I know right now that position is being held by someone who is very influential in your constituency, Mr. Albert Vaughan. How do you respond to those comments?
Yeah, actually I played no role. I played no role in it. Albert, anybody who knows Albert Vaughan, and he's chairman of the Freetown constituency, knows that he's his own man. I would have much preferred Albert stay work in Freetown all the time, and continue to help me with work at Niche. But he made his own decision to apply with encouragement from a lot of city leaders. But I was not one of them. But I respect his decision, and I support his decision. Albert is a good man. He has a lot of experience. So I support his decision, but I certainly did not play a role in encouraging him. He came to me and told me that because of encouragement from others, that he was planning to apply. And I told him, out of respect for our long-standing relationship, whatever you decide to do, I will support. But, selfishly, I would have preferred for him to stay on the ground in Freetown and continue to help me with Niche. So, but I support him, and I regret the fact that, there seems to be this divide in the council and personal attacks. I think that doesn't do anyone anything good. So I hope that cooler heads will prevail, and that we will be able to resolve this matter quickly.
All right. Well, Minister, thank you so much for lending us some of your time this morning. We appreciate the opportunity to speak about various topics in your ministry, and we look forward to having you here again soon.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right. All right, well, we're going to take a really quick break, and when we come back, the conversation switches into Maritime Association for Belize. Stay with us. We'll be right back.